Edwin Frondozo on the Business Leadership Podcast every week for a unique program featuring insights and actionable items from the world's most successful business leaders. Hear firsthand the exclusive interviews and personal journeys on how today's transformational leaders made it to the top.
It is my pleasure to introduce today's guest, Bobby Umar. Bobby is one of the most prolific heart-based leaders in North America. Inc. magazine named him one of the top 100 leadership speakers, alongside such noteworthy giants as Richard Branson, Brene Brown, John Maxwell, and Robin Sharma. Today we'll be talking with Bobby about networking, connections, relationship building, personal branding, and thought leadership. We will likely touch many of those, but ideally, love to take a deep dive in one or two of them so we can get some key takeaways for our listeners who are looking to transform into an inspirational leader. Welcome to the show, Bobby.
Thanks, Edwin. Happy to be here.
Well, first off, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a very busy person. I really appreciate you joining me on the show. I'm really excited to have Bobby here because we've known each other for quite a while, but for the longest time, I've been following him on social media and just for his leadership inspiration. So why don't we start off with you, Bobby? Tell us about yourself. Who is Bobby? What are you up to? And perhaps a quick dip on your journey on becoming a leadership coach.
Sure. So very simply, I was a lost leader. I felt lost in my career. I felt like I didn't have any purpose. I tried engineering. I tried teaching. I tried performing arts. Acting, things like that. I tried brand marketing, and then I finally decided, you know what, I need to spend the time to really understand what is it that I care about, what is it that I really want. And so I dove deep into my personal brand, my values, my interests, my skills, and I came up with a path that made more sense to me. And I was like, you know what, I like influencing people, I like persuading, I like performing, I like diversity, I like balance, I like fast pace. And then I came with the idea of becoming a professional speaker. So I became a professional speaker, launched that 10 years ago. And I never looked back. And then I started talking about leadership for the most part. Then I started talking about networking, connection, relationship building. And then I introduced personal branding in my talks around 2008, and that took off really well. And then I started talking about social media. So I built up a social media profile, and within 2 years of that, now I have 400,000 followers, but within 2 years of just talking about social media, I became an expert there. And that's where all my speeches were about. But they wanted more. When you're in a knowledge economy, people want thought leaders, they want experts and authority figures. And so I had that thought leadership brand, which is great. It's really big now. I'm really pleased with that. But they want more. So then they want me to write blogs. And so I did blogs, I did YouTube, I did YouTube videos. And then I wrote a book on networking. And then they're like, well, now we want you to do training. So I created a 12-week course called Networking Mastery. And they're like, hey, we want to do coaching. We want you to coach us. So now I coach people. I've been coaching people for the last 2 years. And so it's all about creating content, making yourself accessible, and helping as many people as I can. So that's what I do now, and that's why I love what I do, but I'm also very grateful for the people who follow me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. And don't stop, definitely. I mean, it's amazing sometimes in just catching some of the things that you're sharing. It's great, and it's a great reminder. And I really loved your journey in terms of coming from that, how you said lost leader, into an eventual path that opened up branches as long as you step through and mentioning being part of a knowledge economy, which is really great. So it's awesome that you keep, I wouldn't say reinventing yourself, but opening yourself into new situations, that you're writing books and you're creating a 12-day course. I mean, it sounds like you're also providing what your audience is asking you for. You're not just creating this out of thin air.
Yeah, I mean, it evolved, right? I mean, over the years, like when I introduced personal branding, it really took off. Like, wow, what is this personal branding? How does that work? And then because there was so much interest, I was like, okay, maybe I should develop more information on this and write more about it, do some research. And as you can tell, personal branding now is huge. People love it. I even run a personal branding conference every year now for the past 4 years called Discover Your Personal Brand. So I evolve, absolutely. But then a big part of running a business is knowing your target, but also evolving with your target. And luckily for me, I'm very open and very accessible, and I'm also have such a large target that I learn from them too.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, speaking about open and accessible, like you said, you're a social media expert and you share many aspects of your life, from leadership, thought leadership. You speak about politics. You also talk about some of your personal battles with food and losing weight, and of course, talking about your family and being a father. So tell me, being 100% maybe not 100% transparent, but transparent, why is it important as you as a leader to be sharing on social media?
Well, I think, I share a lot of it because it captures my life. So I have like this story that I can look back at. I can easily look at my Facebook feed or my Instagram feed and say, hey, there's my life right there. And it's kind of nice to have it all encapsulated. Otherwise, all the photos that I have of my life and videos are like on my hard drive, and they're just sitting there like these big files, thousands of files. It's not a story. It's just, that's just the data. Whereas on social media, it's a story. I don't share everything, and I don't share, a fight with my wife and I don't share, something that embarrasses my kids. But I do share, some of the events, both good and bad. So when I have a bad situation, like if I binge eat and the food addict, I feel like crap, I'll post about it. If I am upset about something politically, I'll post about it. If I have a happy occasion, I'll post about it, because that's the story of my life is there. I also find that the sharing on social media makes it more accountable. So the food thing is really good. It makes me more accountable to, being better, whether I'm trying to be a better parent or trying to be a better, healthy person, whether I'm trying to be a better business leader or an entrepreneur. And then the other thing that happens with, sharing on social media is that you start to create a tribe of people who follow you and love your work. And so if you maintain your vulnerability and authenticity, people follow you, and that's where it's a great feeling to be able to impact and inspire people. I mean, I get messages all the time from people saying that my work inspires them. So that really provides even more meaning, fulfillment to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned a key thing there, vulnerability, really showing that in social media in today's life. I mean, Instagram, if you look through your feed, it's almost everyone showing them their fantastic life. So being vulnerable, I guess it's really key to be a leader or be a person, because you're sharing the good, the highs and the lows. Is that about true in terms of your philosophy as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, people will trust those who are being themselves as opposed to those who are. I don't like the idea of, manufacturing a brand. I mean, yes, we do a little bit of trying to, look good. Like, I sometimes try to wear a nice shirt when I'm doing a video on my YouTube channel or on Instagram. That's fine. But the whole idea of manufacturing a brand is not you. I mean, just be yourself and be true to who you are and talk about what you care about. And the people who care about that message will follow.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Keep it up. In terms of social media and accessibility, you run a number of not only daily shows, but weekly shows on different platforms, and people take part of it. Why is that important? Is that being accessible to your tribe and as a leader as well?
Well, I think the number one thing is that you have to constantly provide value for people. So the people who do follow you, will follow you because they value who you are, what you talk about, and your expertise. So you have to constantly create new stuff. You can't write a blog post and then write that blog post for 5 years. You can't, make a TV show or a video and then let people, share the same one. I did a TEDx, one of my 4 TEDx talks. The first one I did was in 2011. If I kept just sharing that over and over again, eventually people are going to go to the board and say, well, what else is he doing? What is he doing now? And so you have to constantly be creating, especially if you want to be an authority. Like I'm a big believer in thought leadership. And so to me, the one of the 3 main aspects of thought leadership, you have to continually create new, amazing ideas and content. So that's why I continue to do, I do a weekly, Twitter live chat and Periscope, on Thursdays. I do a weekly live Facebook, show on Friday at 3 p.m. I do a weekly tweet chat. So I'm always doing that content because it keeps it fresh. I'm always getting some new, amazing things to talk about.
And do you get inspired or ideas from people who are taking part of them as well?
Sure. People are always sharing really great ideas. People are giving me topics to talk about. Like, well, one of the best ways right now is I just started a new Facebook group called the Power of Connection Group. And people are asking questions that are about business, about networking, about relationships, about family, and some really cool things I hadn't even thought about. So, and then next thing you know, that conversation turns into a topic for a future video blog or for a future show. So I'm constantly engaging. I'm a big believer in engaging my tribe. I'm very accessible, but I'm also very responsive. You'll find that I respond to almost every text and email and tweet that people send me, and I find that inspires the content that I want to talk about.
Yeah, no, that's great. You're very engaged. I think I've tweeted to you in the past as well, Bobby, and you also responded. So that's awesome. I mean, you just mentioned that you spoke in TEDx, and I know you've actually spoken 4 times.
Yeah.
So you've hit 10 years public speaker. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
How did you get well versed? I know you mentioned came naturally, but I guess more specifically in terms of leadership, how do you think public speaking helps create better leaders?
Well, I'm going to go back to the thing I just alluded to earlier, which is thought leadership. So I define thought leadership in 3 ways. There's 3 criteria that every thought leader needs to be able to bring to the table or get better. So when you think of the best thought leaders in the world, like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Jay-Z or Oprah or Gary Vaynerchuk, what are these people doing that makes them thought leaders in their field, whether it's finances or music or personal development or entrepreneurship? There's 3 things. Number 1, they're networking authentically to create a broad range of people in their network, as well as deeper, in-depth relationships. That's the first thing. The second thing is they're creating and generating amazing ideas and content. So, Warren Buffett does a finance report, Oprah writes the book, Jay-Z writes a song. And the third thing to do is they're always working on building up and bettering their public speaking and written communication skills. So they're writing blog posts, they're writing stuff, they're writing music, they're writing books, they're speaking. So for me, speaking and working on my speaking skills is a huge part of thought leadership. And so if you want to be seen as the expert in your field, whether it's shoemaking or, cabinet making or, astronomy, you have to be able to talk about it. And so that's why the speaking thing is so important. So when I started out with my business, I was already a naturally good speaker, but one of the big things I did was I asked for feedback. Always got feedback. How did I do? What can I do better? I know I'm quite aware of my flaws or my things to work on that I want to think, like, for example, I sometimes stutter or I talk too fast. Just fine. I got to be more clear. But I'm always working on that kind of stuff.
So how do you work on public speaking, or how does anyone begin to become a public speaker? Where can they go, or do you have any ideas? I know for myself, I've joined Toastmasters. I'm part of a Toastmasters group to get better in that. Outside of Toastmasters, where would you suggest people get not only that practice, also get experience to speak anywhere?
Well, I agree. Like, Toastmasters is one way that people will do it. I think that you just have to start speaking everywhere. So offer to speak at, go back to your high school alumni and offer to go back and speak, or do a podcast, or like you're doing, or do a video blog and just start sharing information, like do a Facebook Live post or a Periscope or a Twitter Live. Offer to just speak and get lots of feedback. Ask people, what's the feedback? Do a lot of research on how to become a better speaker. Take a course. I'm actually launching a course this year on how to become a successful paid speaker. And these are all things that, you can work on. You can either, do the due diligence to take a course or do your own personal study. But the best way to become a great speaker is to just practice and get feedback and then refine how you speak.
And keep at it. I guess 10 years to 10 years makes you an expert, right? 10,000 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And, when I think back in the day when I was a speaker, I'm curious to see how I've changed or how I've grown or how much better I am. It's always a fascinating thing to review. Wow.
I'm really interested to see where I go in terms of speaking, because it's one of the focuses I have, as well as growing as an entrepreneur, as well as an overall person, just to better my communications.
Yeah, I agree. Every entrepreneur, if you are selling your idea or your cause, your business, whatever it might be, you have to get good at talking about it. So investing in your speaking ability is a huge, huge thing to help you out.
Awesome. Looking over your career journey, what I really find fascinating, Bobby, it seems like you've done everything. I know you mentioned earlier that you mentioned earlier that you're an aerospace engineer, and then I found out that you were an artistic director for a theater company you founded. You also went into marketing, stints for a number of well-known brands. You wrote and produced a comedy sketch. You're a GMAT consultant, and ultimately, like you said in your journey earlier, that you became a thought leader, you're a leadership coach, and things are growing from there. But I guess, to bring it all back around, how has all these helped you grow to form your current leadership styles?
Well, I mean, one perspective is, Bobby, you've done a lot of things, which people say, but then I was also lost for quite a lot of it, right? So I was exploring and dabbling and trying to figure it out, and so that's why I got to do all the different things, and I kind of just went with it. Now I'm more focused on, what I want to do, where I want to go. So what was the question, though?
How did all these experiences, I mean, you just mentioned you were lost and you were dabbling, but ultimately I think each stop as you were lost, what helped you become that leader you are, or that thought leader, or that why people why people come to you as a leadership coach?
Well, most people resonate with the feeling of lost or being stuck or being unfulfilled. I mean, that to me is huge. Most of us are like, well, you know what? I love my wife and kids, but I hate my job. Or I love my job, but man, life at home is not that great. Or gee, I hate my life at home and I hate my job, but thank goodness for hot yoga or my working out. Like, people spend a lot of time trying to find fulfillment in different areas of their lives, and they also deal with the crappiness in other parts of their life, and that's not what they should do. They should actually try to create fulfillment in all areas of their lives. The idea of being lost or stuck resonates with lots of people, so that's why it works so well. I think that people get it, and that's why they want the help. They want to find somebody who's going to help them do that. One of the things I've learned too over the years is that people want to do things like me, like they want to speak like Bobby, and they want to do social media like Bobby, and they want to be able to parent like Bobby, and they want to talk about politics like Bobby does. And so knowing that helps me create programs and create content that I think that they will really, really benefit from.
I see. No, that's great. So everything you bring to the table is definitely positive, especially showing your vulnerability and being that lost and stuck. I mean, I know hundreds, even myself. Even sometimes every day you wake up, you're like, oh, what am I doing? So it's definitely it's definitely great to have someone out there who's sharing that, and you're not alone. So that's awesome, and that makes sense.
And just so you know, no matter how far we go or how well we do, we still have dark days. Like, I still have a bad day or a bad situation where I'm having trouble, and it happens. Like, and sometimes I feel lost in one area, and I feel frustrated, but that's normal. It happens to all of us, and some people don't want to show that, and I think to me that's just not genuine.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely difficult. I mean, even myself, I battle with sharing vulnerability. I mean, I do have key people in my life. I don't keep it in. I do have a lot of people I talk to about things like that, but ultimately, it's challenging to put your vulnerability out there and to make yourself accountable for it. I think it could be a big shift for myself to even do something like that.
And to a point you made earlier, like what helped me during those times when I was in transition, just asking for help. Like I was like, gosh, what do I do? Like, when I finished engineering, and I basically got fired from my job, and I was like, now what do I do? And then I tried applying for jobs, and all I could get were entry level. And I was like, man, I spent 4 years. I don't want to go to entry level. And so I asked for help. Like, what do I do? And I started talking to people, and people gave me advice on, like, Bobby, maybe you should get into teaching, or maybe you should do an MBA. And I started taking their advice. So for me, the best way to help myself was to ask for help. And people are afraid of asking for help because they're like, oh, it makes you feel weak. But you know what? Asking for help is one of the biggest signs of courage.
No, that's great. And funny that you brought that story. I mean, I finished computer systems engineering. I work for one of the biggest telecom companies in the world. And I was let go amongst 100,000 people as well. And I'm pretty sure I was lost and looking for things to do, and I dabbled for a long time as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I just feel really connected in terms of that sense with you right now. So it's kind of cool. No, that's amazing. I mean, you do so many aspects, and you seem to have a well-versed in terms of your life right now. So why don't you share us a day in the life of Bobby, like with your busy life? How are you balancing everything and getting everything you need to do?
I would say I feel every day that I'm not. That's just the honest truth. There's so many projects on my pile, on my list of things to do. Even before I was about to get on this podcast, I'm looking at my emails like, oh man, I haven't done any emails, so I didn't answer them. So I think it's really hard. Now, how do I get around it? A few things. I mean, one is I collaborate with a lot of people. So I form partnerships with people to do different things. So for example, I'm creating a program on how to do video presentation skills with the one person. That makes me more accountable. I find that we minimize risk, and she makes me work, I make her work, and so we get great content made together. So collaborations and partnerships is one way how I dabble. Another thing I do to try to be more efficient is just, keep a sense of what are the priorities. And, I struggle with that in the first few years of my business. I spent a lot of my time giving back, and my mentors, my business coaches are saying, Bobby, we need to spend time developing revenue streams. So started focusing time there. So, but honestly, I do struggle still. I struggle with it, but, one of the things I think I do poorly is I spend too much time multitasking. That's one thing. I need to turn my phone upside down so I can actually just get back to work and get stuff done, because I do get distracted when my phone goes off or the notification. I've turned most of them off, but I just can't help it sometimes. So for me, it is challenging to do it. I mean, the day for me really works out to waking up, get the kids breakfast, send them off to school, and then I sit down and I basically give myself 45 minutes, because they leave at 8:15. I give myself 45 minutes before 9 a.m. to just do fun social media stuff. Check out what's on Facebook, what's on Twitter, what's going on, share some articles, comment here and there. And then I get to my emails, and then if there's a speaking meeting coming up, I start thinking, okay, what I have to prepare. So I often have to prepare some sort of PowerPoint presentation for a talk. I have to prepare maybe a video or a video blog. I have to prepare some sort of content for one of the training programs I have. I may have to prepare for a coaching call. These are all things that happen in my day. And at the same time, I'm trying to make everything fit in my life. So, today I went to hot yoga because it's got to fit. And then other days I might work out. So I plan my month and my week in advance in terms of what I want to do. But the day in the life is a lot of content creation and reading up on things and doing some calls and messaging people.
Oh, that's great. But I love how you start off with the family, and I'm sure you end with the family as well, because that's the key. If you don't have the happy family, it would be very difficult to do everything else in life.
Yeah, I mean, my family is, and I'm certainly definitely a super daddy mode. For example, my phone goes off every day at 5:30 p.m. and it says super daddy mode. And what that means, it's a reminder for me to shut down, start focusing on the fact that kids are coming home soon. I got to make dinner. And I'm really, really dedicated to that, because the truth is they're only going to be around for 15, 20 years, and they're gone. And then I can live the rest of my life if I ever want to hustle. People spend too much time when their kids are between 0 and 6, and 6 and 12, and even 12 to 18, working really, really hard to, commuting long hours and working long hours to try to become the next vice president or make an extra $20,000 a year. And you know what? Kids don't care. They don't care if you're the next vice president or the next director. They don't care if you make an extra $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 a year. They care that you're there. And so you should be there. And so for me, I'm grateful that I'm here in the morning every day with them, Monday to Friday. And then I'm here every day at 5:30 p.m. until they go to bed. And then I'm here all weekend with them. Even so, as an entrepreneur, I don't hustle the 60, 80 hours a week. I'm a dedicated dad. I'm a parentpreneur. And to me, that's a big focus, because at a certain point, they'll be gone, and then when they'll be gone, I'll be in my 60s, and then I'll have another 20 years, hopefully, to, hustle and do more work. But for the most part, I'm focused on the kids, and that to me is huge. And I'm a big proponent of sharing that idea, even on places like LinkedIn. Like I'm saying, LinkedIn, stop working so hard. It's okay to work hard, but do it before you have kids, and do it when the kids are older and gone.
No, that's awesome. I really resonate with your philosophy on that. I do believe that we all became entrepreneurs to manage our time, to own our time. And I think we gotta stick to why we did that in the first place. And if that means putting on that 5:30 alarm clock in the afternoon, that's amazing. I might even implement that. And even
it's a great reminder. It's a great reminder. I love that. Even if I decide to, work an extra half hour, it's a reminder for me that, this is part of who I am, what my priority is.
Yeah, no, and one thing that really, really hit home, Bobby, was when you're like, you know what? They're only going to be here for 20 years at most, and then they're living their own life, and that really.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, the kids. Here's the thing: kids need you around full time the first 6 years, then maybe part time the next 6 years, then maybe quasi part time after that. But again, yeah, it's only a 20. Typically, if you have 2 or 3 kids, that's a 20-year chunk of time, 20, 22 years. And then you either had 10, 20 years before, or you have 30 years afterwards to live the rest of your life.
That's right. That's great, man. Thank you for sharing that. I guess before we close off, what I want to hit upon was, or what you could share perhaps, is your biggest learning to date. I mean, not only as an entrepreneur, social media expert, leadership coach, father, And perhaps what do you see? What's your vision of the future now?
Oh my God. What a grand question. Vision for the future.
That's why it's near my last one.
The thing is, we always have to evolve, learn, and grow. And I think that's the big challenge. I mean, the story of our life is going to be looking back at what's my legacy, what's my story, how did I evolve, learn, and grow, how did I make an impact? So for me, the thing that I'm constantly aware of is, first off, my two children. They're my greatest legacy story and impact I'll ever have as a leader. But on top of that, aside from them, how many people did I influence? How many hearts did I affect? It's not about the money. It's not about making millions and millions of dollars. It's about how many. I'd rather affect 1 million hearts in a positive way. So for me, I want to be able to look back and I think of the top 5 regrets that are dying, and they look back and they say, you know what? They look at two things. One is how did I spend the time with the connections I cared the most about? And number two, did I spend time exploring the grand vastness of this amazing planet? And so for me, I want to make sure that the lesson for me is, really think about what your legacy and impact going to be and continue to learn, evolve, and grow as a leader to create that impact. Because a better me is a better parent, a better friend, a better leader, and a better everyone else.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that. I guess to close off, Bobby, do you have any final thoughts or observations and perhaps any actionable recommendations that you could share with our listeners who are looking to build further into their career as a leader, whether they're looking to create an amazing online community like yourself or grow as a public speaker, or maybe even become a thought leader?
Sure. I think that first off, everyone needs a coach. So get someone to help you. So take a program, get a coach, find a mentor, get an advisory board, create a circle of friends. You need people to help you on the path. I think that's a really important thing to figure out. And the second thing is, take the time to really understand your brand, your target, and your why, and understand what you're doing, who you serve, how you serve them. That to me will create more focus, more clarity, and help you ramp up your brand. Because for the most part, the people who are having these amazing thought leadership brands, that's what they're doing. They know their target, they know who they serve, and they serve them, and they're consistently doing it all the time in the most efficient way possible. And they have people helping them get there the best they can. So that would be my biggest advice for anyone who's trying to get there. And of course, if you need help, you can always just contact me.
Awesome. And where do they contact you, Bobby?
So you can find me at rayallen.com. That's my website. You can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all those places at Rayhan Bobby. And for the most part, and also I have a Facebook group called the Power of Connection Group. I also have a Facebook biz page called Bobby Umar Leadership and Development. So those are the places you can find me doing my work and sharing all my content and trying to help people.
Great, Bobby. And we'll definitely share that with our with the podcast as well, the links. And
that would be awesome.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I look forward to following you on social media.
All right. Thanks, Edwin. Have a great time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Business Leadership Podcast. Really enjoyed today's episode with Bobby Umar, just diving deep in terms of thought leadership, leadership in networking, social media, how he shares his business and personal life. It was really good to get some tips on that and also share it with you as well. So if you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe on iTunes, leave a comment. Would love to hear from you. Perhaps what you thought about the show, and maybe who you would like to hear me interview as well. Until next time, Edwin Frondozo signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Business Leadership Podcast at thebusinessleadership.com.